What's up, Nurse RX family? It's Cedric again. I know it's been a long time since you've heard from me since my initial videos, and so I'm playing catch up and tell you what's been going on with me. And so I'm gonna have to break this video up into stages. I'm gonna have to kind of go backwards, kind of catch you up from the last thing I talked about to what has transpired that. So let's get going. So if you haven't seen my initial videos, where I think I did two, the first one I did was about when I was first diagnosed with prostate cancer. And then I did a second video where it was talking about I was looking into doing the PAE procedure. And if you remember what that is, that's the prostate artery embolization procedure. That's a procedure, and actually that procedure has nothing to do with prostate cancer. What that procedure is about all of the different symptoms that you have with just an enlarged prostate in general. And so why was it important? My doctor recommended, because I had some very high symptoms like frequent urinations, getting up in the middle of the night, so forth and so on. And when you go into any radiation treatment therapy session, over time, those symptoms are only going to get worse. So whatever your symptoms, the baseline is, it will only get worse when you start getting your treatment. So I went back and forth, and that's where I'm going to start at. I'm going to start with the PAE procedure, whether or not you feel like, should I get this or not, before I go into my treatment therapy session as well. So I went ahead and I did the PAE procedure. It was successful. It's a non-invasive kind of procedure, what they do. The whole point of it is trying to shrink the prostate size, because the way they explained it to me, if you think about your urethra and right in the middle of this, and when you have an enlarged prostate, it is squeezing your urethra so close, and that's why you feel like you go to the restroom and it feels like you never fully empty your bladder, because it's a start-stop situation, and you frequent trips to the restroom. And so what happens is, when you get the PAE procedure done, shrinks the prostate. The shrinking of the prostate opens that urethra up a little bit more, back to more like a normal state, so it will minimize those symptoms that you're having. So I had that. Now, I'm going to tell you, once I had the PAE procedure and a couple of weeks of recovery, by week 6 or 7 or whatever it was, I felt like it was a waste of time at first. I'm going to be honest with you. I felt like it didn't do anything. But they tell you, before you get this procedure, they say, hey, look, this is going to take time for you to actually see any tangible results from it. So you cannot make an assessment. But even after about 8, 9, 10 weeks, I still was feeling like I'm not sure if this was worth the time and the effort and the recovery to go through this procedure. But I'm going to tell you, by week 12 and on, that's when I start noticing, oh, this actually must have worked, because I start noticing a difference in my frequency. And now, actually, if I don't even go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, long as I haven't been drinking water all the way up to bedtime. I mean, if you cut your water intake off at a certain time, if you had this procedure, at least for me, it's been very positive. So it's been productive. So now, looking back, I can say I think the procedure was a good decision, and I'm glad that I had it, because a lot of you don't know, because I haven't been making the videos, I've already completed my therapy sessions. So in the end, I chose IMRT, and that's radiation therapy targeting specifically your prostate, not the rest of your body. I went that route. I had 26 sessions that I went through, and I ended up ringing the bell last week. So last Friday, my last day was the 13th. I rang the bell, Moffitt Cancer Center, signifying that my treatments are complete and cancer-free. right? So glory to God for that. Went through that process, and now I'm going to go back because I wasn't making videos for you and kind of walk you through what the treatment sessions were like, what you can expect if you're deciding to go this route, if you're going to go IMRT, and just I'm just give you a sense of what to expect every time you go in for these treatments. So when I started the before you even start your sessions, you have to do what's called a fiducial marker linings, which they do these tiny, like 3 tattoos, one on like each side of your hips and one kind of above your groin. And those are markers. That's to get you aligned on the CT scanner. And so they do those little tattoo markers. You can't even see them, but they're visible to the actual CT machine. And so I had that done first. The alignment is the first thing you have to get done. And here's the thing, not just for that process of getting the alignment, but once you start and you go through the whole procedure, you have to have a full bladder. That's the toughest part. So when you're going through your sessions, men, your toughest part is just having a full bladder. You don't feel anything. When you're getting the treatments done, you don't feel anything because it's a two-phase approach the way it works. They put you on the table, a CT table, regular like CT. If you've ever had a CT scan, think about that. It's the same thing. CT's big, open, not an MRI where you're enclosed in a tube. CT's big, open, just laying on a table, and it's coming around you like that, the machine. And so it literally takes about 10 to 15 minutes total, and then you're out, right? Every day. So what it's doing, the first 5 minutes of it is scanning you, and they're checking for a couple of things. They want to make sure, is your bladder full of water? So full bladder, what they call a clear rectum, meaning, and don't worry about the clear rectum thing. You know, I was stressing about that in the beginning, was thinking, oh my God, like, you know, am I going to have to be taking some enema or something every day to make sure? No, it's not like that. If you just have a bowel movement, like let's say your session is at noon and you just wake up in the morning, your normal process, and you have a normal bowel movement that morning before you have the session, that's good enough. That's considered a clear rectum for the most part, unless you've eaten something and it's kind of pushing it through your system and you're getting close to that again. But what I found, long as you've had normal bowel movement, daily basis before you go, at least an hour or so before you go or less, you're good, right? So don't stress about that. It is what it is, but they're looking for that bladder, like I said, full water. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail because there were some days I wasn't completely 100% full, but there is kind of a baseline where they can still treat you and not put you at risk. So, but ideally, they want you to have a full bladder because the purpose of it, they don't want your bladder to be getting impacted or radiated through this process as it's targeting getting to your prostate. And they're looking to make sure you don't have any gas bubbles in your system. Gas is a thing that it can obscure the imaging and can obscure the targeting. And so no gas in your system. So you're gonna have to just make sure you're eating a diet that's not creating a lot of gas, and you're gonna live off Gas X, gas relief pills during this process, like before you go to bed at night or after you've had dinner, pop a Gas X before you go to bed. In the morning, at least my technique was an hour before, whenever I was scheduled to go in for treatment, have a Gas X. It's just to make sure that you don't have any gas in your system. And because I have found the only day where I really had a challenge was a day where I had gas in my system. It was just something I ate the previous day. I didn't take a Gas X. And for that gas bubble to clear out, I was there about 3 hours, before I could get my treatment. It was a lesson learned. After that, I was popping Gas X all the time. So I did not want to go through that. So it's always looking at that. That's the first 5 minutes. that you're on this table, that scan, they look at the scan, is the bladder full? Or at least enough water where we can treat you, at least, 60% or so full, but ideally 100% full of water. No gas, clear rectum. Every time it has that, then the machine prepares you, and now it comes back around, and now it's doing the actual radiation therapy where it's actually targeting and radiating your prostate. You don't feel anything, so I don't want you to think you're there, and when it's doing that process, like something's burning or something. You don't. It's none of that. You don't feel anything. It's just as if you're just getting a CT scan done. That's all it is. It's just think about if you was going to get a 10, 15 minute CT scan and get off the table and go about your day, right? So you don't feel anything. You don't feel any pain. You don't feel any of that. Like I said, the toughest part when you're going through IMRT, the treatment, is that full bladder. Because that's tough, because especially when you have a prostate issue to begin with, trying to hold it, everybody's, that sense of urgency. And when you're going through it, that sense of urgency may increase. So you're battling that. You're battling your mind more than anything. I just really got to a place where I just would time it kind of just right. And I'll just say this about the full bladder too. I would get there early enough because I knew I was drinking so much water, and I'm going to give you my technique, my process that I was using, and it may not work for you, but I'm just going to tell you what I finally kind of figured out after the first week or two of what worked. So most of my sessions were in the morning. I don't think I had a session ever after noon. It's just, I had a really good schedule. And so I had a process in the morning. I would get up in the morning and I would immediately drink like a bottle of water, like just knock out a bottle of water when I first got up. What I found was what that first bottle of water was doing for me, it was like really helping me to have a bowel movement, right? Because again, you need to have a clear rectum. So drinking water, as you know, water has so many benefits to our bodies. And a lot of times we don't think about it, but just drinking water alone will just solve so many problems. So if you're not a regular person anyway, and you probably need to just drink more water. And just drinking more water will help you have a bowel movement, or it should, because it's just pushing everything inside your body and your intestines. And so I would drink that first water or so bottle, and then it's like bowel movement, I'm good. Okay, that part, check, done. The rest was about now getting more water, hydrating myself into the system, because I'm going to tell you what I was doing with my technique. So I used to drink about 3 bottles, sometimes 4, about 3 bottles before I even go to my appointment. So usually I would drink 3 bottles before I would even go to the appointment, right? Now I know I'm going to go to the restroom several times before, but I'm going to tell you what it does. When you've drunk already 3-4 bottles of water, you've hydrated your system so well that by the time I would drive there and walk into the building, I'm usually running. As soon as I get out the car, I'm running to the restroom. But I got there early enough. So if my session time was 11:45, I'm trying to get there like 11:15. I'm trying to get there early enough because I know, because I've drunk so much water, I'm going to have to give myself time, my bladder to refill again. So I would go to the restroom immediately as soon as I get there. But it wouldn't take me but probably 10, 15 minutes, if that my bladder would be getting back full again, because I've already drunk all the water. Now I will still have a bottle with me, but at that point, I'm not really drinking that water so much unless I feel like I need a little bit more, but it's a timing thing. So what I would do, I would come in, go to the restroom, sit there, look at the clock, I wait, my bladder is refilling again, and usually I would time it up. They're coming out and say, Cedric, it's time for you to come back. And then I'll go back, and usually I have a full bladder. There were some days where my bladder felt like I was going to burst, and I was like, we're going to have an accident on this table if we don't hurry up and get this done. And then there were other days where it was like, I don't know if my bladder is there yet with enough water. You can sense it. I used to go off of my sense of urgency. How strong was it? Did it feel like I had to go? And usually when it was really, really strong, I knew my bladder was full. So it's no question. Now it's just a matter of a mental thing of saying you can hold it. And so that's where the mental and the psychology comes at it. When you're on that table, it's like, again, it's only 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes tops. But you got to just tell your mind, you okay, you're okay, you can hold it, you can hold it, you can hold it. Soon as it's over, then you jump off the table and you can run to the restroom after they're done with you. But then there were some days where I knew my bladder wasn't that full because I could tell by my sense of urgency. I didn't have, the sense of urgency wasn't that great. And usually those are the days they will scam me like, Cedric, you're only at, 60%, but they would, in some cases, they would go ahead and still do the treatment session. I never figured out what the baseline was. I'm sure it's like you can't be less than half full bladder or whatever, but it seemed like they never did me if it was below 60 something percent or 70% or so. But ideally, again, you want to be 100%. And so what's the process when you walk into the room? You come in, they check you into the room, they tell you to go behind, at least where I was at. Every location, wherever you go, might be different. They'll tell you go behind this curtain and you have to, whatever you're wearing from your waist down, they say get undressed. You don't have to take off your shirt or nothing. Just from the waist down, you take all that off, you put a towel around you, you come out to the table, you lay back on the table, they position you, they align your markers up every time. And then they do that scan. Like I said, the first 5 minutes is a scan to make sure the bladder's okay, no gas, clear rectum. When that's good, the next 5 minutes is the actual radiation of your prostate. And then when that's done, till you get off the table and you go and you get back dressed and you probably running to the restroom right after that and you're done for the day. And that's it. Again, like I said, you don't feel anything, no pain, nothing like that whatsoever. So it's consecutive though. It's every day. Mine was 26 sessions. So 26 treatments every day, except weekends. You don't do weekends. And mine felt like during the holidays. So during Thanksgiving, I kind of got a little break there. Like I didn't go Thanksgiving Day or the day after Thanksgiving. I started back that Monday. So that was the only like really break that I got. But every other time it was like every day, kind of a set schedule, 10, 15 minutes, you're out the door, right? So it's a consistency thing. So your biggest thing is just getting a system that works for you. Like I gave you mine with the water. That's what worked for me. 3 bottles, 3.5 bottles of water, and carry water with me. And then go and, get there early enough. So give myself time to go to the restroom, give myself time for my bladder to replenish again, get treated, and I'm out. And so that was kind of my routine. I'm also going to say again, if I kind of mention it, about what you eat. Whatever your normal diet is, maybe you're already eating a pretty healthy diet, or you just stay away from foods that cause gas. Like anything that for you that may cause a lot of gas in your system, stay away from it. They also say stay away from spicy foods, at least my doctor, this and that, things of that nature. What I found that worked for me in my diet was to high fiber foods were really good because they help my digestive system, they help bowel movement. So like my breakfast would be like oatmeal or cream of wheat or something like that with a lot of fiber. Those were my better days because what that did with the water, It ensured I always had bowel movements and was regular and all those sort of things. So that was my kind of breakfast. I kind of like stuck with oatmeal and cream of wheat and stuff. Or if you eat eggs or something like that, just keep it light, things of that nature. Um, so just try to eat healthy if you're not already eating healthy anyway. Um, and just stay away from things that really create gas in your body. A lot of it is about hydration and getting your rest. You will have moments, at least I did. Everybody's symptoms are going to be different. So every week, I want to share this with you as well. Every week, you'll be meeting with your doctor. There, it's called a OTV. It's kind of an on-site visit where they're doing your vitals, they're checking your weight, and then you meet with the like the PA, and you'll meet with the oncologist that's on staff there, or your oncologist if you're at a location where they're located, and they're just checking about any changes. So that is your time to talk to them and say, hey, I'm having these symptoms or these changes, or are you having any pains, or what's going on with you, so they can know and keep tabs on it. I didn't really have any issues. What they're really looking for, they want to know if you're getting diarrhea, because they say a lot of men going through this radiation treatment, they get diarrhea really bad. I never had that problem. I had a moment once, like day after Thanksgiving, but I really don't think it was. I will say this: I think your bladder is a little more sensitive when you're going through this treatment, so that's why not eating spicy foods and stuff. Be gentle with your bladder is what I would just suggest. Thanksgiving, I kind of got a little ahead of myself. You know how it is. Like, it's Thanksgiving. Like, it's the one time you want to splurge and eat all the stuff, even the stuff you don't even normally eat on a regular basis. And so I noticed some changes during that period, but it's only like a day or so for me. And I was like back to normal once I got out of Thanksgiving, got back to my normal diet. I was fine. And so they're looking for that. Do some men have diarrhea really bad during it? I didn't deal with it, thankfully. And I think maybe had a lot to do with I just kept a consistent diet and high fiber foods. So that OTV is the time you may have that as a symptom. Fatigue is another symptom. And let me say this thing about fatigue. Again, it's going to be different for every man. It's not like a fatigue, at least for me. It wasn't like a fatigue like, oh my God, I'm like wiped out. For me, it was like I would hit moments where I hit a wall in the day. It's just out of the blue, like 2:00 hit. And it's like, I'm tired. But it would pass. Like 30, 45 minutes, I'm back to normal again. So I just noticed that about my body. Like, they tell you it's important to still stay active. Like, don't go through treatment and don't be active, like laying on the couch and like still like I literally had a routine. And I also say this because I've been on or was on during my whole treatment FMLA, so I wasn't at work. I made that decision because I wanted to be stress free, because we know how stress can impact the body. And I know I have a very high pressure, stressful job or workplace situation. So I was honest with myself and said, yes, could you still work and go through these treatments? Absolutely. Depending on your job, but be honest with yourself about your work culture, your workplace culture, where you work at. If you're in a really stressful place and situation, that's not good for you when you're getting this kind of treatment. You need to have your mind and body in as much peace as possible. So I chose to say, I'm not going to work. I'm going to take off and just get away and let my body heal as I'm going through this and recover. Probably the best decision I could have made, because I had a routine every day. So soon as I was finished with a session for the day, I would go straight to the gym. And so I would go to the gym and I would work out. And so it was a reason to go work out, because you know how we are. Had this gym membership for all these years and I hadn't been there, but I can count on one hand how many times I've been going to the gym. and making excuses because of work. I'm so busy. But because I was on FMLA and I've been off, my routine was I don't have an excuse. As soon as I leave treatment, I'm going to work out. And best thing I could have done, my doctor said at the end of it all, he said, probably the reason why I didn't have a lot of the symptoms that a lot of men had is because I stayed active. It's because I was intentional about, okay, treatment's done, I'm going to work out, right? And then in the evenings, I would get on the treadmill here at home, and I would, get my cardio in. So I was lifting weights and getting cardio in every day that I'm having sessions. So 5 days a week, I'm doing all these things, and that was good for me. So I don't know, but everybody's body is different. For me, that's what worked. I needed it. Some things I did give up, like I usually always did my own lawn, cut my own yard. For years, I've done it's almost therapeutic for me. I kind of gave it up. I live in an environment that gets really hot, and I didn't want to overdo it with heat exhaustion and all that. So I gave that up as I was going through this. But since I canceled that service and got it right back. So just yesterday I did my yard again for the first time, which it was killing me just for me to do it. I don't know. If you're that type guy and you into that, you feel like nobody can do your lawn like you can. Anyway, so that was the process. That was what my everyday looked like. My symptoms, like I said, didn't really get the diarrhea, a little, but things got back to normal because I had a consistent diet. I'm careful about what I ate, when I ate, don't eat really late, things of that nature. I never had pain. Nothing ever hurt. I did have fatigue, like I said, but I just call them walls of fatigue. It would hit me and it would pass, or I would press through the wall. Like if the fatigue would hit me and I would say, okay, I'm going to go do something, like some activity to just move through it. I just didn't lay around. I just stayed active. And so went through the whole process. And it was both not hard, but you have to be consistent. And that's where the challenge come in. It's more of a mental of being consistent how you eat, being consistent with the water intake, being consistent to just make sure you're active. It really forces you when you're going through this to be more disciplined if you didn't have those disciplines already in place. And like I said, I had to do 26 treatments. And let me share something with you about the journey also. You know me, I always talk about the spiritual. I always talk about, my relationship with God is very important. So it was also time that that was another benefit of being on FMLA, was like spend time with God, spend time in prayer, spend time in the Word of God. All that was helpful for me because sometimes it's the little things in life that you should do, but you just have gotten away from them because life gets so busy, and it takes you to detach, get away from the job, get away from all that stuff, to go back to the things that make a big difference. And those were the things for me to get back to those spiritual disciplines as well. Really helped me. Now I went 100%. I'm not going to sit up and pretend like I was, knocking out books of the Bible every day. I was not. I would, I read some scriptures, and I would pray, and I would do different things. But for the most part, it's so important to just try to stay in peace, right? And when I talk about staying in peace is not always about, going somewhere in solitude by yourself and quiet, because sometimes you can't do that. You have a family, you got responsibilities, you got people around you, your environment. You might not have that kind of peace where you can just get away. It's getting to a place of peace here. here in your mind and in your heart. Get yourself, because as you know, you can have chaos all around you, but you got to keep your mind in perfect peace and your heart in peace. Guard your heart, to stay in peace. And for me and for any believer, that's that relationship with God and spending time with God, and it keeps you in peace. And so that helped me through the process. And I was intentional about not letting any negativity in my space. Like, if anything or anyone, it's just negative energy, negative vibes, negative whatever, just like, I didn't want that. Like, I knew I need to be at a place where you are going through a battle right now. And though the way I just pictured it doesn't sound like much of a battle, didn't sound like much of a thing, but at the end of the day, you have to remember you're battling cancer in your body. You're trying to get your body back to a normal state. You're trying to eradicate this cancer in your prostate. So you need to be in as much peace. You need to have the right energy, the right people around you, or it's best to just be alone. And so for me, I was very intentional about protecting my peace. So if anything was like drawing on me or pulling on me that was just negative or just like not the energy I needed during these treatments, I pulled back away from that, right? And so that was very important. And I think everything that I'm talking about helped me. It all came together as one. So the end, and let's talk about what's next. Like I said, I rang the bell last week. Completion, cancer-free. Met with my oncologist the last week of treatment. And the next steps are just every 3 months, I believe, I'm going to be getting lab work to check my PSA. So all they're going to be doing post your treatment is to check your PSA every 3 months to see it should be gradually going down. Not immediately drop, but a gradual drop. And my oncologist said it could be even up to a year or more before you really hit a level baseline of where you are going to land with your PSA. But that initial one, you expect a drop. I don't know how much of a drop. And then you'll gradually see your PSA level drop more and more. Remember, when I started this, I told you my highest level, my PSA was 4.97, I believe. I was Gleason 6. If you remember my first video, I was considered stage 1 prostate cancer, which is early detected. So that's where I was. And I don't even know, and I might have to back up a little bit and say this. In one video I was talking about, I was still trying to make a decision of which way I was going to go as far as what treatment options, because there are a lot of different options. You can have your prostate removed. You can do proton therapy. You can do IMRT like I did. You can do seed implants. There are a lot of different approaches and so I interviewed all those doctors, all those different treatment options to decide on the best one. And I'm going to be honest, your insurance company is going to help you decide too, because there are going to be some treatment options they're going to say, I'm not paying for that, right? Because initially, I think I told you in my first video, I was leaning towards I wanted to do proton therapy based on everything I had read, less symptoms long term, at least I felt. But my insurance company was like, we're not paying for proton therapy because it costs like twice as much or maybe 3 times more than IMRT to get the exact same results. So mine would not even pay for proton therapy. So I was kind of like, I had to eliminate that just based off what the insurance said they would and wouldn't. They said, we'll do everything else, but we won't pay for proton, at least for mine. So IMRT became the next best option, or the option that's as good as proton therapy, talking about long-term outcomes. And so that's where I landed with that. And so that process was so important to go through and make the right decision, because what I was about to say is that many of the doctors I met, because I was stage 1, early detected, Gleason, everything was so early. Many of them was telling me to do active surveillance. Like you can do the do nothing option, which is just active surveillance is just, hey, you just keep coming in every 6 months and we're checking your PSA. And if, things start getting bad, then you do something. And it's like, I wasn't sure about that, but a lot of them was recommending I could do the active surveillance. But the one doctor who I ended up with, and shout out to Dr. Yamoa from Moffitt Cancer Center. He is a phenomenal doctor. He specializes with African American men or men of color. He's just a phenomenal doctor and a phenomenal person. So if you're looking for, he's a renowned doctor. Dr. Yamoa was just incredible. But he was the only one when I met with him. He said, you're too young to take a chance and do active surveillance. You're only 50 something, right? He said, if you were 70, 68, the average age where most men find out they have prostate cancer, I would say, yeah, active surveillance, you're 70 years old, you'll probably live the next 20 years, you're good. But you're 50 something, right? And that's a big risk. So why take this risk? Let's deal with the issue. Let's deal with the cancer. Let's attack it, and let's do the treatment. So when I talked to him and had that conversation, because that's where my heart was kind of at to begin with, that's where I chose to get the treatment and not do active surveillance. Now, and I'm not knocking you. If you choose to take the route of active surveillance, which is the do nothing option and just monitor it, that's cool too. I mean, you have to make that decision for you. It's your life. Is your body. Everyone has to make their own decision they're comfortable with. I just wasn't comfortable with that decision. So that's why I ended up getting the treatment. So here I am. I'm on the backside of this thing now. It is done. Now we're just going to be monitoring it, like I said, every 3 months. Hopefully, not hopefully, I know the PSA levels will be dropping and moving forward in my life. But it's been a journey, and what you find out on this journey is that this is a fraternity that you're a part of that you didn't sign up to be a part of, right? Like none of us signed up to be in the I have cancer fraternity, but that's what has happened and transpired in our lives. And we don't know from day to day, from moment to moment, from year to year, what may or may not transpire in our lives. But it's how we deal with it is what makes the difference. And so the journey was good. The staff that I had, they were amazing. They were amazing staff of the location I went to. And I was just really thankful and blessed that everybody that's been in my path on this journey have been so supportive. My wife, my family, my friends, so supportive. My last day, my treatment, I had a great turnout of family members who, came from out of town for me to ring the bell, to witness me ringing the bell. That meant a lot to me. So thank you to all of you. You know who you are. And my wife was amazing. Every day she would send me an email, and it would be a quote, a positive quote, and it would be a scripture. And when I tell you, there were some days those quotes and those scriptures were just so meaningful and made such a difference to make sure that my heart and my mind was in the right place. I can't thank her enough for that. It was beautiful, and she was consistent with it every day. That email was coming, right? And I knew that. And at the end, she did this beautiful book. Every day I would keep they give you a wristband every day. You go check in. I kept every wristband. And so I would she said, keep your wristbands. And I would keep my wristbands and bring them home. I didn't know what she was doing with them, but she just said, always bring your wristbands home. And so what she was doing was she was making this beautiful book. I don't have it in front of me right now. If I would show you. And she had the wristband at the top. She had that day of the treatment with the quote and the scripture for that day she sent. And she did that for 26 treatments, right? And put it together in a book and gave it to me at the end. So just beautiful, and just so much support from the family that I'm so thankful for. Nobody wants to have to go through this, but when you go through it with your tribe, with people who love you and care about you and support you and want the best for you, it makes it even better. So I'm praying for all of you out there. Hopefully, if you're having to go through this, if you're in the middle of this, about to go through this, find your tribe, whoever that may be, to walk with you through that process and through that journey. And you're going to make it through it. And it's not as hard as you think. It's just a thing of consistency each and every day. And before you know it, you'll be on the other side of it. But I sit here today, cancer-free, and I am so grateful to God and so thankful how things have turned out. So again, I want to thank all of you. Many of you left so many great comments, beautiful comments, informative comments in the early process when I was going through this, when I just found out about it all. So don't think I didn't read them or I didn't see them. I did. So thank you so much. And I just want to, again, make this video to kind of let you know that I'm done, doing great, and moving forward in life. And for every man who has to go through the same, I'm praying for you. I'm praying with you. You're going to make it. And for every man who you don't even know what's going on in your body because you're not getting checks, I'm going to give my PSA announcement one last time. Get an annual physical. Especially if you're black and you're at least 40 years old, get your annual. Ask them to do a PSA check as part of your blood work, your panel workup, and know where you stand. Don't take any risks, because if you can detect it and you can catch it early, this will not be a big deal. You don't want to catch it late. So men, please, I know many of you are not about the doctor. Just do it at the bare minimum. Get an annual checkup and get your PSA checked and know where you stand in the process. So with that, I'm going to let you go and just tell you I love you all so much. God bless you. Be talking again. Peace.